You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, episode 27. We are live on a Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. You could have been anywhere else in the world. Tons of podcasts and shows that you could have listened to, and you're right here tapped in with me on the show. Make sure to get in the comments, get in the chat. I love to see you guys interacting with the show as always while we are live. Please make sure to like and share that stream wherever you're at on YouTube. As always, make sure to subscribe to us. You guys are great at that, though. I don't have to keep on drilling that home. At the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. The QR code here in the corner of the screen, as always, is your one-stop shop for every bit of content, every podcast we got. Scan that. It'll take you to everything. Please make sure to engage with us on social media. Leave us a review on podcast platforms. Hope everyone had a great weekend. June is officially upon us. 2023 is flying by. Had my coach tell me, hey, look, by the time the end of June is over, what you've done the first half of this year, that's the standard that you set. So I hope everyone's had a good first half of the year just about. We're going to have an amazing show tonight. Hope everyone's had a great Tuesday as well. Russell Wilson turned down trade offers to the Eagles and the Commanders when they were in place. We are going over the AFC East 2023 win-loss predictions, top 10 head coaches in the NFL, and much more. I want to see you guys in the comments. Get in the chat. So we already got 3 people live with us, some folks in here. Michael Thomas was at OTAs. Maybe that's a solid takeaway. It's also 93 days from the NFL season as well. I saw Bleacher Report hit me up. It's funny, Darby. I almost wanted to hit you up and be like, hey, Bleacher Report asked me how many touchdowns are Michael Thomas and Derek Carr going to combine for. I didn't even want to acknowledge it. But let's go ahead and get into Russell Wilson denying trade packages that were already done deals between the Eagles and the Commanders earlier in this offseason. Of course, we saw Russell Wilson get traded to the Denver Broncos for the insane haul, sign the insane amount of money with Denver, and ultimately win 5 games, go 5-12, and have the worst the worst game. Lord, not even the worst game, the worst season of his career. And we know everyone's calling Russell Wilson washed. He's done for. People think he's not going to come back, even with their offseason with the Sean Payton hire. So let's dig into this a little bit. And again, the Eagles and the Washington Commanders had trades in place for Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson had a no-trade clause inside of his contract with Seattle. Not many people in the NFL, let alone in history, have had that granted to them. I think Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson are the 2 off the top of my head that I know have a no-trade clause within their contract. Russell Wilson denied the 2 of them, decided to go to Denver. Guess he saw brighter days with the rookie head coach and Nathaniel Hackett, of course, OC coming over from the Packers. There was Javonte Williams. There was Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. The O-line wasn't necessarily the greatest, but a lot of people thought Russell Wilson to the Broncos was going to be the great move. Hindsight 2020. They didn't do their due diligence on Russ, and essentially he didn't pass inspection with only winning 5 games. So then you want to take a look at the Eagles, right? And this is really funny how this news breaks and how this unfolds, because we know the Eagles have now realized who Jalen Hurts is, what he's able to do. We saw what he did last season, MVP run, and, in the Super Bowl. But we had talks about when the Eagles drafted him, Carson Wentz was still in a big contract. Now, yes, he was hurt, but he went late in the NFL draft. It didn't look like the Eagles were maybe even going to use him at quarterback at all. I literally remember talks about people modeling, like people were saying that the Eagles could potentially model Jalen Hurts' play style after Taysom Hill with the New Orleans Saints, which I thought was absolutely crazy because I knew Jalen Hurts was a dog. He was an absolute competitor, and he could play football at the college level, at the professional level. So we've had the conversations of Philadelphia not having that faith in Jalen Hurts and not really knowing how to use him. And I remember being on this Justin Sports Show before I relaunched the show here with you guys. Hurts finally figure out how to elevate or something to that. So did Jalen Hurts finally figure out how to use the weapons that Philadelphia has given him? And I said, no, Philadelphia finally learned how to build around and use Jalen Hurts. That's why they went to a Super Bowl and essentially lost a shootout against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that shows you that Philadelphia, literally before the MVP run and before the Super Bowl loss with the shootout, everything that Jalen Hurts did this year, they were willing to make him a second string quarterback to Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson hadn't lost 5 games yet. or excuse me, Russell Wilson hadn't only won 5 games, in a season yet, like he did with the Broncos, losing 12. He didn't look that bad. People really were saying that Russell Wilson, it was the Seahawks that were holding him back. Pete Carroll wasn't letting Russ cook. Pete Carroll being the defensive-minded head coach, not helping Russell Wilson out with weapons. Yes, they had DK Metcalf, and of course they bring in Kenneth Walker, who looked great behind Geno Smith. But now, again, we see the Eagles, they didn't have that faith in Jalen Hurts. They were willing to make Russell Wilson the starter over him. And I guess I can't necessarily blame them, because at that time, Russell Wilson had showed us more than Jalen Hurts did. But it was also a double-edged sword, because I knew Jalen Hurts was capable of being QB1. This season just showed all of us that. But it took a while for really everyone to see it and for the Eagles to believe in it and make it happen. So that shows the Eagles had really no belief in Jalen Hurts before this year, which, again, is baffling knowing what I've believed and know about Jalen Hurts. But they didn't buy into him, and you don't know until you know. Makes sense for Washington, right, to have been in on this deal. Ron Rivera, not a great head coach. They didn't have Eric Bieniemy like they do now. I mean, could you just have imagined if Russell Wilson goes to Washington? He does have that talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And I guess in a way too, right, that you could compare the rosters of the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks at the time, because neither one of them were necessarily stacked, had a few players on both sides of the ball, clearly Pete Carroll over Ron Rivera. So Russell Wilson going to Washington, and I see why he turned that down. But Russell Wilson going to Washington, I'm proud of Washington for being in on that bid. I'm proud of them for wanting to chase a quarterback like Russell Wilson. I guess I would have liked to know what the money or what the contract would have been like for Russell Wilson to go over there, but I'm not going to, rag on Washington for them going to get Russell Wilson. Eric Bieniemy, could you imagine if Eric Bieniemy was now the offensive coordinator and the soon-to-be head coach for Russell Wilson? That's essentially how that would have played out. So that would have been crazy just to see the NFL play out in that way. But now looking at this situation, you have to open your mind to, would Russ really have been more effective with Philly or Washington compared to how the season turned out with the Denver Broncos? I'm going to say it was 50% Russell Wilson's fault, 50% Nathaniel Hackett's fault. Some people might go in and say 70% Russ, 30% Nathaniel Hackett. Not really sure which way you want to cut it. But when I went back and looked at the tape, the Broncos, shout out Theo Ash, the Broncos were drawing up really, really sound plays for Russell Wilson. He had his protection. He was holding the football for very long. He was perceiving pressure that wasn't there, kind of like he would do in the later seasons with Seattle. And we were like, what is Russell Wilson doing? You've just played at an MVP level for 10, 11, 12 weeks, but now the last 3 weeks of how you played have completely knocked you out of contention. We saw that frequently from Russell Wilson in Denver. So, for him to now have posed with this Philly situation, okay, let's look at it. Nick Sirianni, would we take him over Nathaniel Hackett? Yeah, probably so, because he had Jalen Hurts play against the Bucs in the playoffs in a close game. Of course, they lost. And then the second year, Nick Sirianni takes him to the Super Bowl after butchering the press conference. I will never, ever forget that press conference that Nick Sirianni gave us shortly after he was hired by the Philadelphia Eagles. But, okay, so Nick Sirianni over Nathaniel Hackett, right? Do we believe that Russell Wilson would have plugged in better over a Jalen Hurts, knowing that the talent that was around Russ? I can't confidently say that. I don't believe Russell Wilson, not even just because he went 5-12. Well, I can't rightfully say that. Because he did just go 5-12, and I watched the tape and I realistically saw that it was some on Russell Wilson, he could have done the same thing with Sirianni. Yeah, maybe he would have had an easier schedule. I should have went back and seen, okay, what was the strength of schedule for Denver versus what it would have been for Philly and now Washington, in 2022. But it'd be, either way, I didn't pull that up. That really would have helped kind of justify this here. But yeah, and being more successful with Washington, don't necessarily see that being a thing either, because you're gonna have Ron Rivera, not better than Nick Sirianni. Maybe you would have taken him over Nathaniel Hackett, but Nathaniel Hackett had a true stinker because he was that OC for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we literally saw what he did with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He goes now to be the OC with the Jets, and that's where Aaron Rodgers ends up going. For after the trade for Green Bay. So there was a lot of great belief in Nathaniel Hackett, but he ended up not playing out well. So maybe you would have taken Ron Rivera over Hackett, but Ron Rivera overall, I love what he's done. Players coach, kind of turned around Washington, definitely turned around Carolina, took him to a Super Bowl, had the one-loss season. MVP in Cam Newton, So I've got my respect and I've given the flowers to Ron Rivera, but I don't know if he would have really been able to actually hold down a Russell Wilson. But y'all get in the chat, which I believe y'all already have, so I'm about to tune in there. Get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this Russell Wilson trade that he turned down from the Eagles, from the Washington Commanders. Of course, he goes on to play for the Broncos, goes 5-12, major trade package, major money. And as I talked about on a recent show, the Broncos are potentially looking into a exit strategy for Russell Wilson if he doesn't play good again this year. Michael Darby couldn't agree with you more. Eagles dodged a bullet, in my opinion. Yeah, they did. I think that would have really ruined the structure of the team. Jalen probably would take another 2 years from this season to have the season he just had last year because of how they probably would have had to. Well, I mean, I don't know. You know, if you think about it, I was going to say retool the offense. If you think about it, Russell Wilson and Jalen Hurts kind of have the similar play style. And I don't believe that, Jalen Hurts is kind of believed in and trusted and drafted being a smaller quarterback without Russell Wilson. So I could say that their play style is excuse me, is very similar. Now, here's a fun segment. Shout out to Famous Fees that I used to do Petty Sports with. Y'all see the merchandise in the background. Shout out Kings Broadcasting Studios. We do something called 4 in, 4 out. So I'm going to mimic it here on the NFL with AJL. Every year, now in the NFL, there's 14 teams that make the playoffs. 7 are from one side, 7 from the other. It used to be 6, but now they brought in another playoff spot, a couple seasons ago. On average, there are 4 teams that made the playoffs that will miss them the following year, and there are 4 teams that miss the playoffs that will make them the following year. So let's play 4 in, 4 out. I'm going to start with the teams that made the playoffs last year but will miss the playoffs this year. The first one on this list is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Not only have we seen the horrible practice footage of the quarterbacks not being able to hit any of their throws and just overall not really looking great in the what's it called? Just overall not necessarily looking great in practice. They do still have a good roster, but Todd Bowles isn't going to be my favorite coach with what this roster's set up with right now, defensive-minded head coach. I still love Mike Evans. I still love Chris Godwin. You'd like to see more at the quarterback and running back position as well, but the O-line was pretty solid when you go back and look at the teams that had taken the most sacks in the NFL from last year. And just with the Saints getting better this year, with the Lions potentially being able to take a leap, if the Vikings stick around, some people are believing in the Packers a lot. We don't know what the NFC is going to play out to be, but I believe other teams did get much better than the Bucs this year. So that is going to be a team that made the playoffs but will miss. Next, we have the Giants. This was a tough one. When I was looking at how the AFC is stacked to the NFC, which it's really ridiculous how stacked the AFC is to the NFC. I think we all know that. I'm gonna get into a little segment about that on a later episode. I really can't believe how lopsided it is. But with the Giants making but now missing, as I was looking at this segment, I almost backed out because I was like, dang, can the Giants really miss the playoffs knowing how weak the NFC is next year? I mean, yes, maybe the Commanders can pump in, and knock them out, kind of alluding to the next part here. I do have the Saints coming in and making the playoffs. The teams that miss that will make, but we'll get to that next segment in a little bit. So I almost couldn't have even put the Giants in here as a team that made the playoffs but will miss. But I did end up going with it. Look, I have the respect for Brian Daboll, definitely coach of the year. He earned Daniel Jones the contract. Daniel Jones came into his own under Brian Daboll. They bring in Darren Waller. They bring in Jalen Hyatt. They have Saquon Barkley, who stayed healthy last year. So that was a very good outing from the Giants to make us all have that faith in them. But again, I believe the Saints did get better. I believe the Saints are a better team. And no, not just because I'm a fan, but they are a better team than the Giants here. I do believe that the Lions or maybe even the Commanders could be a team. I'm not dropping those teams in the segment. Could be a team that prevents the Giants from making the playoffs. Next team I have is the Miami Dolphins. And the thing with Miami, if Tua's healthy, this team could run for best offense in the league. They could score 28 to 35 points a game if they really wanted to with the likes of Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, if they actually do pull off Dalvin Cook, which is another topic we'll get into later in the show, Dalvin Cook landing spots. But the Dolphins missing the playoffs, if Tua's healthy, like I said, they can run for 12 to 14 wins, be one of the best offenses in the league because they have all that. Mike McDaniel was very impressive. I was very impressed by Mike McDaniel in his rookie year as a head coach. Just mending Tua, mentoring Tua, just the way that they really implemented Tyreek Hill, and he goes on to have a career year. I hate that Mike Gesicki, I believe Mike Gesicki is still Gesicki's with the Patriots. Let me not even goop. There's been so much movement in this offseason. Hated that Gesicki had to go. But with how stacked the AFC is, I believe a team that could take their place could be the Jets. I believe the Broncos or also the Browns are going to be an AFC team that can jump in and take a spot from the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins also have a very tough schedule this year. And if Tua's not healthy, it's going to be a very bad football team. I understand for the fans out there, Skylar Thompson was very competitive against the Buffalo Bills in that playoff matchup. And we were all, pretty shocked at how that played out for Miami. But it's really riding on Tua's health. I have a good feeling he's not going to have as many health issues this year. Hopefully the concussions can hold back. But if that does start to creep in, the Miami Dolphins might not be a great football team. And another team that made the playoffs last year, but will miss the playoffs this year, as much as I hate to say, because I really do like this team, it is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. And of course, the Los Angeles Chargers are good enough to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But again, with the AFC getting stacked up, they need Keenan Allen to stay healthy. They need Austin Eckler, who thankfully is coming back to stay healthy. They draft Quentin Johnston, who is a good wide receiver. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I really didn't believe he was a first-round talent, but with the scarcity of size and his combination of speed in this draft, and I understand that's why he was taken that high, the Chargers could very well make the playoffs. The Dolphins could very well make the playoffs. The Giants could very well make the playoffs, 3 teams that I put in here. The Bucs, I am sure, will not. Maybe they could win the NFC South, but I really think that's either the Falcons or the Saints division to take. You already know I'm taking the Saints. Who dat nation, baby? Giants, Dolphins, and Chargers, along with the Bucs, will be the 4 teams that made the playoffs last year, but will miss the playoffs this year. Now, NFL teams that missed the playoffs last year, but will make the playoffs this year. The New York Jets, they pick up Aaron Rodgers. This might be a shock to a lot of you, but I believe Aaron Rodgers is good enough to get the Jets into the playoffs. As much as I've sat up here and said that the Jets should not walk, they should run away from Aaron Rodgers, I did believe that was true because invest in your future. You do give up a big haul for him, and you really just could have used that capital to try to pull off Lamar Jackson or try to pull off some of these other quarterbacks that were moving around. But they made the move. It is what it is. And Aaron Rodgers seems to be, gelling into the offense well. He seems to definitely be doing well at OTAs. I know he hasn't been at some OTAs because of the ankle, and that's been kind of concerning. But when you look at how he is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC, one of the more stable quarterbacks in the AFC, over some of the fringe ones out there like the Tuas that I was just mentioning. Maybe he's more stable than Lamar Jackson in terms of passing the football and, being able to stay healthy. And that's not even a slight on Lamar, but I think Aaron Rodgers with the Jets is a lot more beneficial, maybe than I was willing to let on, but that other people are willing to admit as well. Another team that missed the playoffs that will make the New Orleans Saints, my New Orleans Saints, the one and only New Orleans Saints. Who dat nation? It's like I just can't say the Saints without saying who dat nation. If you say New Orleans, or Louisiana, or who dat, I got to say who dat nation. I'm sorry, guys. But yes, the New Orleans Saints, they trade for Derek Carr. They have Chris Olave there. Michael Thomas does resign. Not necessarily a fan of it. Alvin Kamara, we don't know what's going to happen with him. The pending suspension is coming. More than likely, he is going to get suspended. The Saints should dig into a running back because that shouldn't punch them in the mouth. They don't need to let it punch them in the mouth. But I can see the Falcons not the Falcons. I can see the Saints making the playoffs over the Bucs, being the only team after winning that division in that division to make the playoffs. The Giants falling out is a very good possibility. Of course, the Bucs are going to fall out, like I mentioned. So the Saints will swoop in to take one of those playoff spots. The Denver Broncos, a team that missed the playoffs, that will make the playoffs next year. The Denver Broncos bring in Sean Payton of the formerly mentioned, or of the aforementioned, I believe that's how you would say it, New Orleans Saints. And Sean Payton did a lot for the Saints. We saw what he did over the 15 years, winning them the Super Bowl, elevating Drew Brees, amazing draft classes. And now the Saints have been struggling to find themselves ever since. But with the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson and Sean Payton been saying it all offseason, they are going to bring something different out of each other because of what they both bring to the table. The team has had a great offseason. Sean Payton has spent money. The draft was okay. And there's been a lot of camaraderie around this team. And I'm not saying Russell Wilson's going to immediately go back to 42 touchdowns and 6 interceptions with 5,200 yards. I'm not saying that's an exact stat line from Russ. And I'm not saying he's going to go back to that, but it will be more stable. It will be more calculated. It will be more efficient football. And the last team that missed the playoffs but will make this year, the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns with Nick Chubb, and the Cleveland Browns with Amari Cooper and Kevin Stefanski. The Browns not having Deshaun Watson last year was major, was absolutely major. We know that he was not available for them. The quarterback position was very questionable. They were unaware of what was actually going to unfold. Of course, they did have Jacoby Brissett in there. I believe so. Let me make sure that was accurate before I get butchered on a live stream. Believe so. No, Washington Commanders. I believe he went to the Commanders, though. So I'm going to trust my gut there and say that he was with the Browns. But the Browns didn't have their star quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who I believe can still be a top 5 quarterback in this league, who I believe is better than Justin Herbert at his peak, who I believe is better than Lamar Jackson at his peak, who I believe is better than Joe Burrow at his peak. I know we haven't seen Deshaun Watson in a few years, but I believe that part of his game is still inside of him, and this will be a season to where he brings it back to life. Again, I don't comment on his off-field things. I'm not a guy that's out here massively advocating for Deshaun Watson. I recognize talent. I get on the show and acknowledge it. And I believe he's going to do great things with the Browns this year, having that full 17 games under his belt, knowing the offseason that they had. So there's the 4 in, 4 out for the 2023 NFL season. The 4 teams that made the playoffs that will miss next year are the Bucs, Giants, Dolphins, and Chargers. And the 4 teams that missed the playoffs last year but will make the playoffs next year are the New York Jets, my New Orleans Saints, the Denver Broncos, and the Cleveland Browns. This has been episode 27 of the NFL with AJL. I highly appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. There's a ton of podcasts and shows out there that you could have chose from, and you decided to be locked in here with me at about 7:25 Eastern time on a Tuesday. Please make sure to like and share the stream wherever you're at. Subscribe on YouTube at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Please also scan the QR code in the corner of the screen. It is your one-stop shop for all things NFL with AJL content and podcasts. And of course, never forget we are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs. Whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate to secure your future retirement plans. Make sure you drop your email in the comments or DM them on social media to get at their exclusive newsletter. They just had an awesome Would You Rather situation in their newsletter for home buyers, really putting in the perspective of the 2 markets that have that has happened in recent memory. And then, of course, the AI, like I mentioned, drop that property address, drop your email to get the average price, the number of homes, and how fast they're selling in that property's area. Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs, turning clients into family by prioritizing people over transactions. And you guys thought I was going to stop with the 2023 record predictions, but I'm not, because here we go with the AFC East 2023 record predictions. And I wanted to make it to where you guys could see the schedule a little better. The bye week is week 13 here. I'm not the biggest fan of sharing my screen for presentations, but felt like I could get you guys more tapped in with the schedule, with the players. Thank you, Bills Wire, for making this for me. Just had to make it a PDF. So let's get into it. AFC East record predictions for 2023, starting with the one and only Buffalo Bills. They have the 7th hardest schedule this year. They're projected at 10.5 wins. I've got them going 11-6 overall, absolutely undefeated at home. You look at their home games, Las Vegas, Miami. They're in London for Jacksonville, but I have them winning that game. They have the Giants at home, Tampa at home, Denver at home, New York at home. They've got some close games here. Also New England at home. I have them going undefeated at the crib. 2-6 on the road, though. You look, they have one against the Jets. They do have at New England, at Cincinnati, at Kansas City. Who is week 18? I wish I could see that. Let me switch it around real quick. Who's week 18? Okay, Miami. That's going to be a loss as well. I do have them splitting the entire division. So Buffalo Bills are going to be 11-6 overall, undefeated at home, 9 wins, no losses. One of those is in London. 2-6 on the road, splitting the entire division. I believe this division is good enough to where Bill Belichick will be able to get wins, one win against each division rival. The Bills, same with their offensive talent. So I feel the same way about the Dolphins with their offensive talent, and then the New York Jets as well. This division, I want to rank the divisions as well on the show, so I'm going to be doing that possibly soon. I believe this could be possibly the best division in football. They're going to have an 8-4 record heading into that Week 13 bye, so it is going to be a late bye week for the Buffalo Bills. Again, I always like those middle place bye weeks, but Buffalo, 8 wins, 4 losses is going to be a nice bye week. Let them rest up, get into the back half of the season. They got 10 games against playoff teams this year. They're going to go 6-4 in these games. You got W's to the Giants, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Chargers. Losses to the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bengals, and the Dolphins. And you take a look at the schedule right here, guys. Week 9 to the end of the year is their toughest stretch by far. You got the Bengals, the Broncos, the Jets, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. I have them going 5-4 down this stretch here again. Buffalo Bills, 7th hardest schedule in the league, projected at 10.5 wins, going to go slightly over. Have them going 11-6 overall, undefeated at home, 2-6 on the road, splitting the division in a Week 13 bye week. Now let's get into those New York Jets, Jets. Let's get what's going on, Parker. Good to see you. I don't believe I've seen you on the show before, man. Thanks for getting in the comments. Let me know what you want to hear. Let me know what you like. Who's your team? And just be engaging while you're there in the chat, brother. All right. New York Jets, 6th hardest schedule, projected at 9.5 wins. I also have the Jets going 11-6 overall. They're going to go 6-1 at home, 3-5 on, 8-1 at home, 3-5 on the road. They're going to split with the entire division as well. I got them starting 4-2 heading into the season, heading into the Week 7 bye. And this feels exactly how it would go with Aaron Rodgers. Y'all know I've been saying it's going to take Aaron Rodgers a minute to get evened out. I originally had them going 3-3, but when I looked back at the schedule, bumped it up to 4-2. They're going to open the season undefeated, 3-0 with the Bills, Cowboys, and Patriots because they play the Bills at home. I believe they're going to be better than the Cowboys and the Patriots at this point in the season. Going to go on to lose to Kansas City. They're going to play a close game to Denver on the road, which I think is a loss, and then a close win at home against the Eagles. Yes, I do believe the New York Jets at home in Week 6, I believe, is that game, that they will have enough in the tank to be able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They have 9 games against playoff teams. I think they're going to go 6-3 in these games. Dubs to the Chargers, Dolphins, Bills, Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants. Losses to the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Dolphins. Now, the first 12 weeks of the season are an absolute gauntlet for New York. If you look here on the schedule, they have a perfect Week 7 bye placed right in there. Like I said, they're going to start 4-2 going into that Week 7 bye. They're going to end this stretch of 11 games going 8-3, only losing to Kansas City, Denver, and Buffalo. You definitely see the hard schedules reflecting here in the AFC East. You definitely see the 6th hardest schedule reflecting here with the New York Jets. They're projected at 9.5 wins. I'm taking the over, going to be generous and give them 11 wins here for the 2023 NFL season. Jets fans, Bills fans, get in the comments and chat and let me know how you're feeling about my record prediction so far. Now let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins wire slacking a little bit. They didn't have a cute little graphic for us, but here you can see all of the games for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have the 2nd hardest schedule in the NFL this year, and they're projected at 9.5 wins. I'm going to go just under, I guess, right at 9 wins. They're going to go 9-8 overall, 8-2 at home, 1-6 on the road. They're going to split the division as well. Like I said, the entire AFC East is going to be splitting their division. They're going to start the season 0-4, unfortunately, and then go 3-6 heading into that Week 10 bye week again, losing to the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Bills. Thankfully, going to have that bye week in Week 10. They're going to be 3-6 heading into that Week 10 bye, like I just mentioned. Parker, that's what's up. Favorite NFL team is the Eagles. I'm a Saints fan. Michael Darby right there in the chat is a Saints fan as well. Was pulling for you guys really, really hard in the Super Bowl. I'm a major Jalen Hurts fan too, so can't wait to connect with you and get to know you better, man. 4 straight losses, like I said, starting the season, though, to the Chargers, Patriots, Broncos, and Bills. Then they've got 2 games against the Raiders and the Titans that maybe could be the only gimme games here at this point for Miami. You got all the other games, the Giants, the Panthers. Those are going to be hard fought. It somewhat kind of softens up in weeks 11 through 14. But you look at the first 4 games of the year and the final 4 games of the year might be the absolute toughest for the Dolphins at this point. Kansas City and Philadelphia sprinkled in the middle there with the Jets too. This literally sounds like the second hardest schedule in the NFL. 8 games against playoff teams are going to go 3-5 again in those 8 games. Wins to the Cowboys, Bills, and Giants. Losses to the Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, and Chargers. Dolphins fans, y'all, I don't know you're going to be down bad this year, but y'all are definitely going to be going out sad because it's a very tough schedule and it reflects. But to go 9-8 against a tough schedule compared to how your home and away games are going to line up, I think it's pretty remarkable. I think it's something to still be proud of, and I think it's still something to definitely, just have a positive takeaway for the Miami Dolphins. Now, moving into the last team here, we're going to talk about those New England Patriots, who I have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NFL. They're projected at 7.5 wins, and I've got them going 5-12 overall, 4-5 at home, and 1-7 on the road. When you look at this depth chart, when you look at the talent that's on this team, yes, they bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. Yes, they have a decent, tight end tandem. Yes, they do have some players on that defense, but again, with the 3rd hardest schedule, with kind of questions already with Mac Jones as your quarterback. Is it going to be Bailey Zappi? We saw the quarterback mix-up that was in New England last year. I've got them going 5-12 overall, 4-5 at home, 1-7 on the road. They are going to split the entire division, so 3 of their 5 total wins will be in the division. Excuse me. Got them going 4-6 heading into the Week 11 bye. I'd like to see their bye week a little earlier. I think if they did have an earlier bye week, they could maybe recoup and reset to overall get into, just a better position to push into the playoffs. But nonetheless, it's going to shake out for them that way. 9 games against playoff teams this year. I think they're going to go 2-7 in those games. The only wins are going to be to the Bills and the Dolphins. Going to turn right around and lose to the Bills as well. The Dolphins, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Giants. The first 8 weeks, also, you take a look at the schedule outside of Vegas, are very tough. And maybe even Vegas will be able to beat them. I have Bill out coaching McDaniels, his former teammate, in this game. His former, gentleman on his coaching staff in this game. His former quarterback in this game. So that's going to be a W there for me. And you maybe have a little bit of a break in Week 9 and Week 10 with Washington and Indianapolis, but then the final 8 weeks are an absolute another gauntlet. And again, Bill Belichick's coaching, I think, will get him to these wins. Maybe it's more than 5. I'd like to believe they win more than 5, and I don't ever, completely dig my brain in and wrap all the way around all of these schedule predictions because I just look at who they're playing, how I base, how I feel about the team, and if I think it's going to be a win or a loss. We're going to have team-by-team predictions coming up for the year. But Bill Belichick's coaching will get him to these wins, definitely. And while I believe he can outcoach a lot of teams in the league, the talent in the offensive scheme really could just be too much for him. Again, the 3rd hardest schedule being projected at 7.5 wins. That reflects it all. The NFL didn't line it up well for them. Vegas doesn't have a lot of belief in them. I'm going under on the New England Patriots here. So the AFC East will play out as the Bills and the Jets will both go 11-6. Maybe the Bills are going to be the ones to win this division because they might have the better conference record. They will be undefeated at home, but the Jets won't be far behind going 8-1 at home. They will have the better road. They will have the better road record, talking about the New York Jets, but we'll have to see how the conference games play out there. The Dolphins are going to be in 3rd going 9-8, and then the Patriots in 4th going 5-12. So you guys get in the comments. Let me know what you think about the AFC East 2023 record predictions. Did I get them right? Did I get them wrong? Too many wins, not enough wins, some variables that I might be missing. I want to hear from you guys on the show and on the podcast. And let's spill over into some Dalvin Cook landing spots, trade destinations, new team, new home, however you want to look at it. And I didn't go through actual trade packages here with this segment. I just strictly went through teams that I feel like are in a good enough position to warrant a running back of Dalvin Cook's pedigree, which there's 10 teams, by the way. Dalvin Cook has a very large market. I know a lot of people are going to have hiccups about his injuries and everything that comes forward with him. But realistically, Dalvin Cook will be a great option for a lot of teams in the league. Like I said, I have 10 of them. So here we go. Dalvin Cook landing spots. We heard that the Dolphins are a real possibility, and I believe that would be great. You talk about taking pressure off Tua, really giving him a surefire RB1. We've had the Matt Breidas, and I can't believe the Raheem Mostert, or not that I can't believe I couldn't remember. We've had the Matt Breidas and the Raheem Mosterts of the world being with the Miami Dolphins, but now Devon Achane is there. If they brought in Dalvin Cook along with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, that would be an absolutely disgusting offense. They already bring in Jalen Ramsey as well. So Dalvin Cook going to the Miami Dolphins, I think, would be a great landing spot. It gives Tua, again, that relief off of him. It gives Mike McDaniel another weapon, not only as a receiving back, but a guy that can split the tackles, a guy that can bounce outside, really a do-it-all running back in Dalvin Cook. Another landing spot is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. And as much as I didn't want to put the Chiefs on this list because, I know some people are going to be like, oh, Adam, they just, had Isaiah Pacheco and, he was a 7th round running back and they were able to win the Super Bowl with him. So why would they go, get another running back? Hey, I totally feel that. I have a lot of respect for Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes was clearly comfortable enough with the roster that they had in order to win MVP and win the Super Bowl. Hate that they didn't pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5th-year option. I just don't believe he, along with Mecole Hardman, were implemented well enough into the offense because they did have the likes of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, other very reputable members and big minds and coaches that they were working with on the staff. But Dalvin Cook here would really lock the Chiefs in for another Super Bowl run. It would be absolutely unfair to have the reliability of Dalvin Cook behind Patrick Mahomes and at the disposal of Andy Reid. They do get Rashee Rice. It would be crazy if they were able to land D-Hop as well. I mean, this team would change overnight, I feel like, into overwhelming Super Bowl favorites, and anybody that wouldn't tell you that would be absolutely crazy. I know the AFC is going to get tougher, and it is. I don't do air quotes to be a smartass about it. It's just, I believe it's already gotten as tough as it will be for this year. And if the Chiefs make just that one move in Dalvin Cook, let alone two with D-Hop and Dalvin Cook, Lord have mercy. I don't know how you can't say that they'll be running back to the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills, a team that has really needed an RB1 for a while. I know they brought in the likes of James Cook. I know they brought in the likes of Devin Singletary. And while those guys have been able to make some things happen in Buffalo, we know injuries have been a case. We know that not necessarily getting in the right running schemes have been the case. We know that the dependence of Josh Allen has been the case as well. So when you see Dalvin Cook coming in, and again, I understand about the injuries, but what Dalvin Cook will provide will be absolutely undeniable in a case that the way the Buffalo Bills need him. I mean, this takes pressure off Josh Allen. This gives, again, more disposal for Sean McDermott to have him at his disposal. Stephon Diggs will be able to be complemented by this because of a nice run game that will be immediately implemented in Buffalo. Dalvin Cook to Buffalo would also have people saying that this could feel like a surefire Super Bowl run team because of the dual threat of a James Cook and a Dalvin Cook. Didn't even think about that. Reuniting him with his brother in Buffalo would be absolutely insane. Now we're going to go on with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I almost wanted to leave them off as well, but the Bengals are a team that does have Joe Mixon. We know the NFL can be a league where you really do need a two, where you really do need a two running back room. And it's not necessarily that you need to have a running back tandem, but it does help. We saw when my Saints had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. We saw when the 49ers had Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. We saw when multiple teams were able to have multiple running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. When you have a running back tandem, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, it can really, really make you volatile. And you come in and put Dalvin Cook next to Joe Mixon. This might be one of the least favorable fits because Joe Mixon really still is in that RB1 role. But Dalvin Cook to the Bengals, I think would be a fantastic move. Again, pressure off Joe Burrow. Zach Taylor gets that at his coaching disposal. The Bengals are already in a great spot, so Dalvin Cook would easily add to this. My New Orleans Saints, we don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara this year. We know the suspension is coming. Mark Ingram, I believe, is still a free agent, and there's nobody else in the Saints running back room. Yes, they did just pay money to Michael Thomas. They did just pay money to Derek Carr. Might not have been the most favorable in both situations. I definitely wasn't a fan of both with the amounts and even with one player in Michael Thomas. Love you can guard Mike because you've been on the couch and on Twitter. Have all the respect for you, bro. But man, it's been tough not seeing you out there. And I realistically wish my Saints wouldn't have spent money on you, but it is what it is. Dalvin Cook going here would be a massive move for the New Orleans Saints. I'm not saying it would put them into Super Bowl runs. I'm not saying it would put them into, deep playoff runs. I do believe the Saints are built to make a deep playoff run, and Dalvin Cook would add to that, but I'm not saying just because of that addition that it would make them run that deep. But the New Orleans Saints putting in a bid or getting in the sweepstakes for Dalvin Cook would be absolutely phenomenal and would add so much to that team. The Denver Broncos, they do have Javonte Williams. They do have some other running backs in the room as well over in Denver. Put Dalvin Cook behind Russell Wilson at the disposal of Sean Payton. There's no frowns about that. The Jets, after making splash moves for Aaron Rodgers, getting some of Aaron Rodgers' wish list players, or he says it wasn't on the wish list, putting Dalvin Cook behind Aaron Rodgers, putting Dalvin Cook in that Jets offense. Again, the market here for Dalvin Cook is major. You're talking about Dalvin Cook going to all these teams, making them immediately better, immediately putting them in the playoffs if they weren't already, and the coaches that they would be at the disposal of outside of, probably, unfortunately, Dennis Allen and maybe Mike McCarthy. This guy would provide immediate value. The Jets, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, under Robert Saleh. Dalvin Cook would provide insane contribution. Browns as well. Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook. Maybe that's another one that's not a super reasonable fit because Nick Chubb is definitely still in that running back one role. Dalvin Cook, I believe, comes into a room where he is getting 65 to 75% of the carries, but he does have another back, or however you want the numbers to work out. I know someone's going to be like, oh, Dalvin Cook only gets 54% of his carries. Whatever, right? Dalvin Cook is a running back one and is going to be a guy that needs to take most of the carries because he's got that pedigree of talent at his disposal. I would also say that Dalvin Cook would be reputable with the Dallas Cowboys as well. They do just let go of Ezekiel Elliott. Letting go of Ezekiel Elliott, was a reasonable move because he didn't do much after he had the injury, after he had the contract. That was major for him. That was major for the Cowboys. That was major for the fan base. That let a lot of people down. That immediately devalued the running back market. And that's why we have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones scraping up for, $12 to $15 million a year. And some guys requesting insane amounts of money for a running back position that are long, long gone and will not be paid for. But Dalvin Cook to the Cowboys, relief off Dak, might make Mike McCarthy better as a coach. Would just make the Cowboys as versatile as that offense is, along with the Browns, along with the Jets. I mean, all these teams, I expect the offense to be great. He would just add more versatility and immediate rushing attack. And then I'm going to finish it out with the Baltimore Ravens. I did say it was 10 NFL teams that Dalvin Cook could be open to. Dalvin Cook has a market. And I don't know exactly what's going on with Dalvin Cook at the Vikings. I don't know if it's money. I couldn't dig deep enough to find the true reason of why they're actually going to be moving on from him. I'm sure it was there, but I couldn't find it. But Dalvin Cook to the Baltimore Ravens. And J.K. Dobbins, as much as he is that RB1, and he's in that role pretty well, Dalvin Cook coming in could maybe slide J.K. Dobbins to that RB2 role, and he could still be a rusher that had 700-800 yards. Maybe Dalvin Cook can slide into that RB2 role. Not really sure. Maybe this is another team where it's not a super comfortable fit, but they would, and he would, Dalvin Cook provide value, take that pressure off Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh would have plenty of fun with him. Good offensive line. All of these teams here, for the most part, have solid offensive lines. So the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Saints, the Broncos, the Jets, the Browns, the Cowboys, and the Ravens are all possible landing spots for Dalvin Cook, with apparently the Dolphins being a real possibility. We've heard about Dalvin Cook going to other places for, I think, a couple months now. We saw Adam Thielen get out of town. Of course, they turn around and draft Jordan Addison, which I think is a great addition. Kirk Cousins is going to be very comfortable with him. Basically gets another Justin Jefferson alongside him. So kind of crazy how all that can play out. But Vikings fans of any team that I just mentioned that Dalvin Cook can go to, get in the comments, get in the chat. Let me know what you think about this actually playing out. I can't wait to see where Dalvin Cook goes. I'd love for him to stay in Minnesota. I'd love for him to come to the Saints. If he goes to a team like the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, maybe the Broncos or the Jets, somehow ends up with the Browns, maybe I'll name all 10 teams off again. I can't wait to see where he plays because he's going to provide immediate value and really elevate that team. This has been episode 27 of the NFL with AJL. Please like and share the stream wherever you're at. Subscribe on YouTube, if nothing else. Please, the QR code there over the Drew Brees jersey is the one-stop shop for all things at the NFL with AJL content, podcasts. Please engage with me any possible way on social media. Please leave a review on podcast platforms. If my show's not on a podcast platform or a platform that you listen to, I'll specifically make sure to get it on that one platform for you, because not only will it help you, but it will help the other people that are listening on said platform as well. You guys could have been anywhere else in the world. There's tons of podcasts and shows out there that you could have chose from, and you're right here with me, locked in on episode 27 of the NFL with AJL. I haven't opened up the phone lines in forever. I don't know why I moved away from it. So I'll open them up again, and I'll make sure to keep them opened up for the rest of the episodes. Call the show 678-480-8716. Again, call the show 678-480-8716. Going to take the phone off of Do Not Disturb. Hit the NFL with AJL hotline. Debate me live. Don't be afraid. Place your calls. If you want, shoot a text, DM on social while I'm live. I just want to hear from you guys. And wrapping up the show today, we are going to discuss the top 10 NFL head coaches heading into the 2023 season. Number 10, and this could have went between a couple of guys here. I was torn. Maybe could have went between 3 guys, but I definitely feel like it came down to 2. Number 10 is going to be Mike Vrabel. And I'll say that number 11 is Matt LaFleur. And I was really switching the 2 of them because Matt LaFleur, multiple NFC championships, multiple number 1 seeds, multiple Aaron Rodgers MVP seasons. Oh, that was just Aaron Rodgers. That was just Nathaniel Hackett. LaFleur was still there. But the reason I put LaFleur at 11 is because I know he walked into more. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Nathaniel Hackett, kind of got the handoff from Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, excuse me. So Matt LaFleur at 11. And the fact that it was so many NFC championships that he got stalled up in where it felt like the same mistake over and over, or you're, losing to the Niners at home where they don't score a touchdown. I believe that's how that one playoff game went. So it's been tough for the Packers, but I'm not going to doubt his coaching. At number 10, give me Mike Vrabel. Definitely remaking that Tennessee Titans offense and team, believing in Ryan Tannehill to pour back into him that season to where he had the lightning in a bottle, takes him to the AFC title game, putting the system in place for Derrick Henry. Unfortunately, A.J. Brown did leave under his watch and tenure, but I can't take away from what Mike Vrabel has done, being a former player, now a coach, major players coach, very well respected in this league. At number 9, give me Nick Sirianni, just coming out of the Super Bowl, 2 seasons as a head coach, 2 playoff runs, 1 Super Bowl run, 1 MVP run with Jalen Hurts, pouring into Jalen Hurts. What an NFL draft. What an offseason. You probably think it's a little low here for Nick Sirianni, but realistically, it's only been a couple of seasons in the league. He did just come off the easiest schedule, but I can't deny the fact that he just lost a shootout in the Super Bowl to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And Travis Kelce. That's nothing to slight. Nothing to slight whatsoever. Nick Sirianni at number 9. Number 8, Zach Taylor. And you probably think he should be higher too. Last 2 seasons, Super Bowl, AFC Championship game, getting there under some horrible offensive lines. And people probably wondering, Adam, how do you even put Zach Taylor in your top 10? Because he hasn't been able to protect Joe Burrow consistently. He hasn't been able to win a Super Bowl, but he has been able to draft well. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, having Joe Burrow in the building, knowing how he's coached this team up, knowing how Cincinnati needed to have a good coach for this franchise for this football team. And they went out and found Zach Taylor because Zach Taylor's job was in question. We weren't sure about Zach Taylor before the Super Bowl run. We weren't sure about Zach Taylor before back-to-back AFC title games against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, one of which they won. We didn't know about that. We didn't know what Joe Burrow was going to be coming off the ACL. We didn't know how Zach Taylor was going to step in. So maybe he deserves to be higher, but give me a few more years of coaching at this level because the Bengals did just creep back into the conversation very fast, but they did just get back into it. Number 7, give me Bill Belichick. Can't deny what he did with Tom Brady. I'm clearly respecting my elders here. The oldie goldie in the NFL. Maybe the greatest NFL coach of all time. Defensive-minded. If he was offensive-minded, I believe he would be higher on this list. Maybe you're going to gaff, laugh, scoff, whatever the hell that word is, at the fact that Bill Belichick is number 7 on this list. But Bill Belichick is a great coach. I have absolutely nothing against him. And when you look at what Bill Belichick has done in the entirety of his career in the NFL. By the way, if you're wondering on the graphic, this is also just something I learned. The NFL has an annual head coach photo that's taken every single year, and I was unaware of that. So that's very interesting. They literally get together for like a school photo every single year and take a picture of all the NFL coaches, the head coaches in the NFL. Lord, that was tripping me up. Bill Belichick at number 7, master defensive mind, Super Bowl winner. Maybe you want to call him a cheater. I don't know. Respecting my elders, respecting a legend here. Number 6, John Harbaugh. Or is it Jim Harbaugh? Lord, I need to look that up. Forgive me as I confirm the first name. John Harbaugh. Okay, cool. Jim is in Michigan. Jim is in MI. Haha, there you go. Just came up with it on the show. John Harbaugh with the Baltimore Ravens. John Harbaugh is an amazing coach. And the reason I have him here at number 6 is knowing how he's been able to really create a scheme around Lamar Jackson, keep it kind of the same when Tyler Huntley comes in, being able to have the grit to go through the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes and contract negotiations, being able to have that grit in the playoffs, playing in such a tough division year in and year out in the same division as Mike Tomlin, who is very far up from him on this list. John Harbaugh really did have to take that risk with Lamar Jackson, drafting him late in the draft and being able to mold him into what he did. Unanimous MVP. Of course, they lose tragically in the divisional, but we can't deny what John Harbaugh has done. And I know he needs an AFC title game appearance or a few more. And, he did win the Super Bowl clearly with the Ravens years back. I want to say the couple years after my Saints, or the year after the Packers actually had won the Super Bowl, I want to say, is when the Ravens won against the 49ers. But I have a lot of respect for John Harbaugh. Number 5, Sean Payton. Yes, Sean Payton is here at number 5 on my top 10 NFL head coaches going into the 2023 season. No, this is not an all-time ranking. Sean Payton coming back into the league is great for football. It's great for the Broncos, and it's great for Sean Payton and everyone that plays under his head coaching vision. Because as a Saints fan, I've uttered it multiple times, and I'll say it again. We know what he did for the city of New Orleans. Nobody wanted the job. Nobody wanted the team. He comes in, trades for Breeze, first-year NFC title game, third-year Super Bowl, another NFC title game that should have been a Super Bowl appearance, great drafts in 2017, all-time offenses throughout the 2010s, and, set the record for most wins without a Super Bowl appearance. We know what Sean Payton is capable of, and now him going in with Russell Wilson, now him going in with this defense, going in with this offseason, with this toolage. Sean Payton only spent 1 year out of the league. Where would you have put him if he didn't spend a year out? Should he be higher on this list? Felt like I wanted to put him at 4, but he has had some outthinking the room moments, not playing great in playoffs, not coaching great in playoffs, so I have to keep him at number 5. Number 4, Kyle Shanahan. And this is where I almost put Sean Payton. Kyle Shanahan, multiple NFC championships with inferior quarterbacks in the matchups. Brock Purdy as the very last pick in the NFL draft, literally Mr. Irrelevant, takes them to the NFC championship under the head coaching capability of Kyle Shanahan. Yes, he blew the Super Bowl lead. Yes, he's blown the NFC title game lead. I believe that's what it was. Something to that effect. Yes, he's blown Super Bowl. Oh, no. Yes, he blew the Super Bowl lead twice with the Falcons and with the Niners. Yes, he's had coaching mishaps. But to know that Kyle Shanahan came in, reworked Jimmy G off of multiple injuries, multiple NFC championship runs, under Jimmy G's quarterbacking ability. One Jimmy G played in, one Jimmy G didn't. Of course, Brock Purdy, 7, 8, 9 games there, gets them through the the playoffs. But knowing how he can craft that offense to make any running back successful, to know how he can craft that offense to make any quarterback kind of be able to plug in. Maybe they're not crazy dynamic. Maybe they're not something that you're a fan of, but Kyle Shanahan's coaching ability is undeniable in this league, and he has one of the best offensive minds. We saw how Atlanta literally put up 35 points a game when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. Number 3, Sean McVay. Sean McVay at number 3, just 2 seasons removed from a Super Bowl win, did unfortunately have one of the worst Super Bowl hangovers in NFL history, contemplated retirement this year. As much as I have the Rams going into the tank, I still believe Sean McVay is a top coach in the league. He's just going to be dealing with a really rough and bare roster. And Sean McVay, as much as I had the Rams going 3-14 when I looked at their schedule, you're probably wondering how the hell can you have a coach winning 3 games being a top coach on your list? Because he took that team from worst to first in terms of points per game. They won the NFC. They beat the Saints as much as they shouldn't have in the NFC title game. They go to the Super Bowl, lowest scoring Super Bowl ever, lowest amount of points ever put up in a Super Bowl. He trades for Matthew Stafford, wins the damn Super Bowl the first year he does it in his house. You have to give respect to Sean McVay. He's young, one of the youngest coaches, I think the youngest coach to ever coach, one of the youngest coaches to ever win a Super Bowl. We saw how he built up the Rams, the way he engineered Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp together to have another one of the greatest quarterback to wide receiver seasons we've ever seen. I don't believe you need to outthink the room to put Sean McVay at number 3. Number 2, Mike Tomlin. Absolute legend in the NFL, never had a losing season. Yes, he has missed the playoffs before, but knowing how he's able to work with Kenny Pickett, great picks in George Pickens and Najee Harris, love the Darnell Washington pick out of Georgia. We know Mike Tomlin is a legend. He's coached the greats of, of course I can think about them, but he's coached the greats of Big Ben, when Antonio Brown had his head on right, when Le'Veon Bell was effective, Troy Polamalu, Jerome Bettis, James Harrison, Ryan Shazier. I just could keep going with the legendary names here. TJ Watt, multiple legends that Mike Tomlin has coached, and multiple legends that he's developed. Super Bowl winner, playoff winner, never had a losing season. Again, you don't need to outthink the room to put Mike Tomlin here. At number 1, we're going Andy Reid. I don't think anyone needed to necessarily guess, who's going to be number 1? Andy Reid. 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. 2 of those are wins. 2-time MVP in Patrick Mahomes. 5 straight AFC title games. I feel like when you say Andy Reid's or Patrick Mahomes accolades, you can just kind of intertwine them with each other because one helped the other to get there. 5 straight AFC title games at home. 2-time Super Bowl winner. We know what he did with Philadelphia. The risky, gutsy trade up to grab a very raw Patrick Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech in the NFL draft. The Super Bowl MVPs, the multiple MVPs, the 5,000-yard seasons for Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid at number 1. So the top 10 NFL head coaches going into 2023. Number 10, Mike Vrabel. Number 10, Lord. Let's start over. The top 10 head coaches in the NFL headed into the 2023 season. Number 10, Mike Vrabel. Number 9, Nick Sirianni. Number 8, Zach Taylor. Number 7, Bill Belichick. Number 6, John Harbaugh. Number 5, Sean Payton. Number 4, Kyle Shanahan. Number 3, Sean McVay. Number 2, Mike Tomlin. Number 1, Andy Reid. Now, right outside there, I did have Matt LaFleur at number 11. Again, can't deny what he did with the Packers, although he did walk into a lot more than most of these coaches did. Doug Peterson, let's not forget, he just won a Super Bowl a few years back. He just turned the Jaguars around, and I believe the Jags are going to be in at least the divisional round. They will be a top 4 team in the AFC, more than likely, when it's all said and done with the playoffs. Got a lot of respect for Pete Carroll. Love how he just remade Geno Smith, but we'd like to see more out of him. 2-time Super Bowl appearance, 1-time Super Bowl winner. Frank Reich has a history in the league, great players coach, and Brian Daboll just winning coach of the year, and really, really, really turning around the structure and the offensive make of that Giants team, getting Daniel Jones that bag. Darren Waller's there. Jalen Hyatt is there. A lot of respect for these head coaches in the NFL. Going to tackle this chat right before we get out of here. Darby, I don't understand the dead emoji. Let me know about it before we go. That was episode 27 of the NFL with AJL. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Tuesday night. There's so many other podcasts out there. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with me on the show. Super appreciate y'all, as always, for tuning in. Please make sure to like the stream, share it before we get out of here, subscribe on YouTube at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Engage with me any possible way you can on social media. You know the QR code is the one-stop shop for everything I just mentioned. Scan that bad boy. Give me a review on podcast platforms. We talked about Russell Wilson turning down the trade offers. We just went over the top 10 head coaches in the NFL. We just predicted the 2023 records for the AFC East division in the NFL. I'm coming back at you guys on Friday. I always appreciate the love. Love you guys. Need you guys. I'm here for you guys. How can I support you like you guys support me? You guys tap in twice a week, every week. I know we've been slipping on the live shows a little bit, but I try to stay definitely tapped in on the content for you guys 100%. Thanks, baby. The best comment for last. I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you, honey. I love all of you guys that support me. Thank you guys for believing in the show, for sticking with me for 27 episodes. Episode 28 will be out on Friday. We'll see you.